First things first, Stuart, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, really good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing well, thank you. So before we get into the album, I'd like to go back to last year. Well, obviously, for everybody, this has been a very crazy period. Now, obviously, you had a lot of time on your hands all of a sudden to spend to work on the record. But is there anything you did just for yourself that you weren't able to pay attention to in previous years, but now all of a sudden had the time for?
I've started doing some things that maybe I don't have time for. I've started doing some writing,
Okay.
doing a lot more reading. I got glasses. I've never had glasses before. Yeah, well, mostly that. Going on very long dog walks.
Okay. But is it like, for instance, with reading, is it kind of just to get away from it, or as a relaxation type thing?
Yeah, both. I mean, just having more time, just
Mm.
having more time and just kind of spending more time not very active. I guess it's been the same for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably been my main thing I've done.
And then obviously the other thing is working on an album. Now, now that the album is out and then it's been really well received, how do you look back at kind of the last couple of months and kind of the anticipation and build up towards the release?
You know what? I mean, when you put records out, and we've put a lot out now, it's always quite a nervous time before people hear it.
Right.
And then when we started getting some reviews, and the reviews were really good, I was thinking, all right, cool. These people like it. But it's like, they've just been sent a free copy. It's not quite the same, like, I'm really happy that journalists like it, but it's not quite the same. But I mean, just the reception has been really, really lovely. And we did work really hard on this record. So I'm kind of, it feels really nice and kind of feels like a nice reward. So yeah, it's been a really great couple of months, without a doubt.
What was the feeling in the studio? Did you know you had something good, so to say?
Yeah, we were happy with what we were doing. We tend not to really take a step back and kind of think about things
Okay.
in bigger terms. But yeah, we were happy with the music we were making and how we were playing. And I think we knew we were in a good place. But I mean, I run a record label too. So I mean, we've put out some amazing records that people have not paid much attention to. Like, it doesn't always, just because you've made good music doesn't always translate to it having an impact. So for both of those things to happen, it's been really, really great.
Well, that's an interesting point, because you've been releasing records for about over 25 years. And now this one is, I think, the first one that made it to #1. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, it means a huge. I mean, it was a complete surprise. But yeah, it means a lot of people bought it, which is a really helpful. Especially having not played a gig in a year and a half. It's good for us to be able to keep doing this. It kind of, to get down to basic economics, it kind of just helps us, helps the label. It helps how people feel about the band. It kind of helps, probably when gigs do start, helps us get some more gigs. It's good. Yeah, we're definitely happy about it.
You mentioned something I find interesting, which is the way the band is perceived. Now, has your own perception of the band changed over the years? Because it must have.
In a way that I'm more aware of how known we are and how our music is received. But in other ways, like when we turn up and get together and play music, no, it's not changed at all.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not changed at all. But yeah, all the extra stuff, all the outside stuff, yeah, that's changed a lot. But just the four of us getting together, working on music and trying to do something cool. That's the exact same, because when we started the band, we didn't have any aspirations to be in the charts or any of that stuff. We didn't even really know if people were going to like it enough for us to play any gigs. I mean, it kind of like, we were really just doing it because we thought it was a cool thing to do, that it was going to be a good way to spend our time.
Right.
So, yeah.
Is there a memory that sticks out from that initial period, that starting up period?
I mean, loads. Yeah, loads. I remember our first rehearsal with Martin in my parents' living room, and me and Dominic had written like 4 or 5 songs, and yeah, and that was the first time it was a band, because before that it was just 2 people by guitar and bass making up some stuff. So yeah, that first rehearsal, I mean, we were pretty rough, but just kind of hearing the songs loud was really, really great.
Was there a moment for either yourself or the band as a whole where you felt like, okay, we're onto something, this is actually something that people might enjoy?
Yeah, that came a while later. That probably took about maybe almost just a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. The first gig we played in London in a big room. I've talked about this recently. We were opening for Pavement in the Astoria, which is quite a big place, a couple of thousand. And yeah, that night the music really filled the room. And I remember we had no idea how our music would work in a big venue. Before that, we'd just been playing in bars and or small music venues. Bars sounds a bit not quite accurate, but yeah, I remember that night it being a sense that, wow, this music fits these kind of places. So that was a big moment.
And you say about the first kind of rehearsals that it was still pretty rough. Obviously, you're just starting out. Now that you've kind of 25 years plus onwards, how has the songwriting in your mind developed, and how has your own approach to songwriting changed?
It's changed a lot because because of the pandemic, we can't really get together all the time anyway, but we kind of write a lot on our own now, and we use computers and send the demos around, and yeah, that's a big change. But how the concepts behind the songs are and everything, that's not changed at all. It's still kind of, yeah, I just want to make something that kind of feels kind of weighty or big, or yeah, still the same ideas.
Yeah, what is the core then? Are you trying to tap into a certain emotion, or obviously you've made a lot of soundtracks and film scores and the like, and then, or is it kind of trying to capture an atmosphere? What is your approach in a sense?
It's hard to define. I mean, I think our music is quite emotional, but it's something that happens quite naturally. It's not something that we kind of aim for. It's just the kind of music we like making. So yeah, it's hard to define, but just like something that seems quite solid, something that maybe people will remember.
Because if we go to the new record, then did you have any kind of conception, any idea of what you wanted the album to be before you started working on it, or did that kind of fall into place?
Yeah, that fell into place. I mean, we did a lot of demos. We probably had like 40 demos, and we ended up just working on like 12 or something. And yeah, the music we write is quite different because there's 3 people in the band write music, and it tends to kind of sound like the whole band once everyone's played on it. So in the early days, sometimes you're like, what is going on here? So these songs sound so different, but they always end up with everyone playing kind of seeming more matched.
Mm. Well, that's something I noticed as well. Obviously, for instance, a song like Dry Fantasy sounds very different than supposedly We Were Nightmares, for instance. So what was one
Yeah.
song that you were surprised by when you first kind of heard the bones of the song?
Um, oh, I'm kind of surprised by everything, to be honest, to be honest. Because yeah, like Dry Fantasy, when I first heard it, Barry wrote that. It's just these synths, and
Mm.
it was hard to even imagine us all playing on it. But yeah, when we did, it kind of expanded quite a bit. So yeah, it's always interesting to hear something and then discover how that will kind of make sense with all of us playing on it.
And as you said, this time around, it was probably more difficult to get into the same room. So how did you figure that out? I believe you went to England together.
Yeah, yeah. The lockdown had eased quite a lot, so we got to rehearse. We just kind of were careful with masks and everything, and then when we went to record, yeah, it went fine. Like, we were in a residential place in England, and Dave, the producer, was in America, so we had him on a Zoom call. But yeah, that worked fine too. So to be honest, we kind of, maybe that made us concentrate more, because we knew we had challenges and we didn't want to make a disappointing record just because it was a hassle. We just wanted to kind of get past that and do it as well as we could.
Because when you're working on a record, and especially last year, when do you know that you're heading into the right direction? Do you have a sense of when you're moving towards kind of what you want to get out of the album?
To be honest, we're always just thinking how, on each individual song, how can we make it as good as we want? The album as a whole, it just kind of clicked into place, but we kind of just tend to kind of work with what's right in front of us at any point.
Which song was for you the most fun to work on then, or the most kind of fulfilling?
Yeah, I think the song Ceiling Granny was a lot of fun, because it's pretty much live. It's just all of us playing live, and originally was a lot slower and sludgier, and Dave was just like, you can play that faster. That sounds like it should be fast, and just kept playing it faster and faster and faster. And that was a lot of fun. So yeah, that was probably the one that I was really kind of, and that Dominic and Martin had been practicing together as well, and they kind of got that really, really quite tight. So yeah, really happy with how that turned out.
But it's interesting that you mentioned that song, because now I believe that at least the title was inspired by the movie The Exorcist, Exorcist #3. Yet to me, the song doesn't sound ominous, or doesnut sound very horror-like. So
no, we just give the titles randomly. The titles don't really have anything to do with the songs.
Well, because if you listen to a song like I have to find it, Midnight Slits, that one was that did sound somewhat ominous to me, and kind of a different. Do you remember what mindset that the band was in when that song came together?
A good one, yeah. We were really excited about it, and that was the one Atticus did the strings. Atticus Ross did the strings, and yeah, we were super happy with how that turned out. But yeah, it's quite a dark song, but I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. It ended up being really, really big. So yeah, really, really pleased with that.
You say that the titles don't aren't that important, or aren't relevant to kind of the song itself. How do you, are they just kind of whatever comes up in conversation amongst the band?
We just write stuff down. We just have a list. It's really not that serious a thing. We're just gonna have a list of random stuff, and then we give them titles at the end of it all. Okay,
because what I find is I always find it interesting with instrumental songs, the way they're named. But if I take a title like It's What I Want to Do, Mom, the thing that I saw in it was maybe a conversation you had with your parents as you were going into the music industry, and you kind of had to convince them of what you were doing. What was it like for you going into the music industry?
It was fine, actually. My parents are really supportive. Some of the other band members maybe not quite so much, but my parents were always cool with me doing whatever I wanted.
And was it for you very clear that this is what you wanted to do for a long time?
It was just what I wanted to do. I never really was thinking about it long term, but yeah, I always really liked music, and it was all I ever really did. I mean, that I put any kind of real effort into. So yeah, it kind of made sense. It made sense.
What was the thing that instilled this kind of I'm blanking on the word, but what instilled this passion into you?
I think just hearing music, just hearing like Jimi Hendrix play guitar, and seeing like videos of Joy Division play and all this kind of stuff. Just kind of like, I don't think I ever thought, I can do something as good as that, but I was just like, wow, that's so cool. That looks fun. I want to try that, so yeah, that was that was it. And just from when I was quite a young teenager, I was quite a big music fan, and yeah, it's always been quite a big passion.
And was it the same for playing live? Do you remember the first time you stepped onto stage?
Yeah, I do. It felt quite natural because I've been playing quite a long time. I think over the years it's become better, though. I think as our bands kind of got better, it's become a more enjoyable thing. I used to be kind of a bit scared of like, oh, something's going to go wrong, and I mean, things did go wrong quite a lot. But yeah, it's definitely something I really enjoy.
Well, it's what you just now mentioned. Is that part of kind of, because one thing I hear quite often from artists is this sense of, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome, but a sense of kind of not really being sure that you belong. Did you have that and the band as you were coming up?
Not so much when we were coming up, because we were pretty young and we were quite confident. But yeah, sometimes we'll be on a bill like, and you'll just be like, I cannot believe we're playing with these other bands. Yeah, that's happened a lot. Yeah, it does. But when we first started, we were so kind of young and kind of excited that, yeah, we didn't really take a second to think, what are we doing here? We were just like, yeah, this is fun. This is fun. Let's go on with it.
And especially with the new album now, then, because we can't play live. It's the music industry has changed quite significantly in the last 20 years, I would say. So where do you see the band now, both musically and as kind of fitting in within the musical landscape of a world post-corona?
I don't know. I mean, I guess like we're probably one of the more established kind of alternative non-mainstream bands, so it's a nice place to be, like I don't think people expect us to be like on the radio all the time, but people kind of know who we are, and yeah, it's a good spot to be in, definitely.
Because I could imagine that even though you're number one now, you must not have felt a lot of pressure over the years, or have you?
No, I mean, we've had some pressure. Like when we started putting records out on our own label, there was pressure for the records to do okay so we could keep doing it. And I mean, I feel pressure to make good music, because of reputation is, if you start putting out crappy records or whatever, then it's harder to still be a band. So there's that kind of pressure, but there's not commercial pressure,
right?
Which is yeah, it is nice because it's not anything we've ever really thought about too much.
Right. Going back to the album, then there's one song I want to dive into a little bit more because it's the only one with vocals, which is Ritchie Sacramento. Now, when you are working on a song, does it kind of reveal itself that it needs vocals?
It's usually quite obvious quite early on. That song had like a verse chorus kind of structure, and it always sounded like it would be good in that style. So yeah, that would always seem quite obvious, but the vocals weren't they were the last thing to go on it. So sometimes you can put vocals and it doesn't make it any better, and sometimes it gets abandoned. But yeah, that one ended up working out pretty well.
And when it comes to lyrics, because every once in a while you'll have a song with lyrics, how do you know what to focus on lyrically? And for
it can be hard. It can be hard. This one kind of had a theme straight away. It was inspired by Dave Berman and a story our friend Bob Nastanovich told about him. So there was an idea there straight away. Sometimes if it's kind of free form, you can write a load of stuff and then not really even realize what it's about until months later. But this one had an actual subject, so that made it easier, but also in some ways harder, especially when the song's about someone who was a great songwriter. So the last thing you want to do is have a song in tribute to someone who's a great songwriter and it be a crappy song. So yeah, but it worked out well, and I'm really glad about how it turned out.
Have you heard from people that were around him about this song?
I sent it to his wife, Cassie. And she was like, "Oh, that's cool." Yeah. I mean, these people are my friends. Sure. If they thought it was terrible, they'd probably be too nice to tell me.
Well, what I find very interesting and very, very healthy in terms of the way the band operates, and this is that you only have to please yourselves in a way. You have to make songs that you really like yourselves. But do you all have very different kind of inspirations and angles through which you come in? Yeah,
we've all got pretty. I mean, sure, there's a bunch of stuff we all love, but yeah, we've got pretty different music tastes. And listen to a lot.
Oh, sorry. Well, what is your kind of niche then? What is your preference?
Preference? I mean, I listen to a lot of music, but I listen to a lot of like ambient music and a lot of old blues music.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff that I grew up listening to, like the Velvet Underground and the Cure, all that stuff. But yeah, I listen to quite experimental but quite pleasant music. Dominic listens to quite a lot of quite aggressive music. He also loves folk music. Barry, I think, listens to a lot of electronic music, and we have quite varied tastes in music, although there's a lot of things we all like.
Where's the mind of the band now? Like you said, you're very busy, and it's been a hectic couple of days now with the album being released. What is the next step for Mogwai?
Hopefully start playing live soon. We've got a few more songs that we didn't finish, so if we have time, maybe put out another single at some point. Yeah, just keep busy. I'm excited about gigs starting again soon. Kind of had some words that it won't be too long. So yeah, that's really exciting.
Well, last question then. What are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading a really cool book, actually. This book, Mayflies, by Andrew O'Hagan. Yeah, it's about some people kind of growing up in the 80s, like music fans. It's a really funny book and really nice. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
I'll have to check that one out. All right, Stuart, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Cheers, man. All right, bye-bye.
All right, have a good one.